Now, it may seem to you that I did things kind of a strange order. I made a empty InDesign file, and then I prepared my other graphics, and I'm kind of going back and forth. And part of that is just the experience that I have of working on this. Uh, and part of it is that I want to know where I'm going so that what I prepare my work for, I can kind of hit that on target. And we're going to go back to InDesign. So I open up my InDesign folder. I saved my new InDesign file as the name 271 InDesign Setup. That's my project name. InDesign Setup is the name of my project. Your project might be P3 or P4. The simpler the better. And I have version 3. So I'm going to double click on that and open up my InDesign file. I guess it was already open. So now I'm going to begin importing. Let's take a little bit of review. Down here in the bottom left bar, if I click on here, I have all my pages. And then I have my view, grids and guides. I can pick show document grid. Now I could also pick snap to document grid. And I want to have that for now. Now there's a hotkey for both of these. It's Command apostrophe and Shift Command apostrophe. And let's see if that works. Shift Command apostrophe. And I'm going to go back up and pick view. And is it apostrophe? Yep, it was. So I wasn't sure if it was the little key in the top left corner underneath the tilde. So it's a little bit hard to look at right now. And I notice, hark, I have a mistake in my layout. And so I'm very glad that I turned on that grid because remember I wanted to make my margins to be 0.75 on the bottom, and hark, it's on the right side. And that's true for every page. And so every page is wrong. Well, it's giving me this on the outside margin. So my outside margins are a little bit wider, but that wasn't my intention. So I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to create a new document. It was real fast to do. Close that. File, new document. And I want to make sure that I'm working in inches, 8 by 10, 10 pages, 5 column grids, 0.125 gutter, margins. And so that was outside. So I got that wrong. And probably some of you saw that when I did it and you didn't say anything. You just let me go ahead and do it. So there we go. So now I fix it. Now if I want the outsides to be that, which would be kind of cool also. And actually, let's do that for fun because I actually kind of like the look of that. So I'm gonna leave the outside at 7.5 and I'm gonna put the bottom at 1. And it's cropping in pretty close. Now, in this case, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this as going to be maybe children's book with really large type. Although I don't know if kids are going to read A Tale of Two Cities. Anyway, so I got my bottom margin 1 inch, my outside margin a little bit bigger, and my inside and my top margin at 1/2 inch. And then my slug and my bleed. Uh, I want the bleed to be, I'm going to have it be 1/4 inch. So it's 1/4 inch all the way around. If I want it to be 1/8 inch, I could go down. So this is 1/8 inch. So it's a 1/4 inch bleed around, but 1/8 inch on each individual side. And depending on how you want to do it, I guess, but we'll go with this one. Now I'm going to pick create. And now I can see that, yes, it looks better. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Now, because I didn't really do anything else in another document except screw it up, is that I can write right over that last one. I could, but Garmin being Garmin, I always version up. So that one I might throw away. I might move that to a kill folder and then delete it. Definitely delete it at the end of the project. Um, and just save the good stuff. But sometimes I may have done something, put something in there, and I'm like, oh man, I did all that work and it's lost. I could have just copied, pasted from that old file, and I didn't because I deleted it or I overwrote it. Shame on me. So anyway, that's why I keep stuff. So here I am looking at page 1. The book binding is on the left, is on the right. Uh, Page 1 is on the right. And let's get started adding stuff, which is what originally the intention was going to be. So I'm going to go up to View. I'm going to pick Show My Document Grid. And my document grid, because I made new, I set a preference. I'm going to go back in and change that. So I'm going to go back up to Preferences, Grids and Guides. And so my grid, I had 8 and every inch. And so I really want it to be 2. So I have a line every inch, and then I have a division every half inch. So there's just 2. And so we up here, if we look up in the top left corner, that's where 0, 0 is. It goes over 1 inch. And so it's giving me a slightly bolder uh, line on every inch and a slightly thinner line on the half inch. But we see it goes from 8 and then down to 10 inches on the bottom. And like I said, this is going to be really useful for lining up our graphics. Okay, so now we're ready to go. And we're going to begin to build our pages. Now, InDesign has this, and all the Adobe products now have these crazy arrangement of windows. And I wish they had kind of one standard one that always worked, but they don't seem to be standard and always working for me. So I have these windows laid out in a way that's comfortable for me. But as we go through and start working on it, you're going to be jumping around wondering where I am. And I'm blaming that on Adobe because I don't like the way they handle their window presets. Okay, but I'm going to start with layers, and I'm going to rename this layer, and I'm going to call it page 1. And I do double digits or 3 digits if I go over 99. And in film, often you go over 1,000. So on film, you typically do 4-digit padding. So I have that page 1. Now I'm going to begin setting up things on page 1. And I'm going to add in each of my elements. So I'm going to first put in my number for my page. So I'm going to hit Option D or place. So where is place? I use it so much as a hotkey. There it is, place. Under File, Edit, or Command D. Not Option D, Command D. And then it's going to look on a disk. And it defaulted to where my InDesign files folder. And I know I want to add in these page numbers. And because these are all nice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, then I can pick in page 1. And you'll notice that even though it came from an Illustrator file and the Illustrator file was huge, it's just giving me kind of exactly the size of that shape. And maybe that's because I exported it as an SVG. In this case, it's an advantage, okay? Possibly an advantage. And so I'm going to go up here just below the top and pull down. And I want this to go to 6 inches. So if I look over here on the left, there's that ruler, and I'm going to pull down, and there it picked it at 6 inches. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you can see that my type didn't quite go down. So if I hit this scale tool, I can select this guy and I can nudge it down. So it's going to sit right on that line. So I want it to go on the margin here and over here on the right. Okay, and then I have that. So that's page 1. Now I'm thinking about my layout, and so I actually want my page numbers on the outside, and I don't want it to be so big. That's terribly huge. So I'm going to hit the escape key, or the undo, 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 undo. Okay, and there it is. It's hanging on the end of my mouse. If you would have said that in 1950, they would have thought you were crazy. hanging on the end of your mouse. And so I'm going to have my page numbers be on the outside. So I'm going to go up here to the top left column, click on that corner, and then I'm going to drag down, and I'm going to have it go to the 4-inch. So I look on the left, it says 4, and click. Now, one option I could pick is if I go to View, Extras, Grids and Guides, I can pick Snap. So I have Snap turned on. Snap to Document Grid. So I'm going to hit the Undo key and make sure that Snap to Undocument Grid document that's still picked. So that look up here, click, and down here, and I should get some snapping. Snapping is a small area, but I'm going to 4 inches down. Click. Okay, there we go. I got that one done. And then zoom out. Okay. Now I'm going to do page 2 and 3. So I'm going to make a new layer and a new layer. And I'm going to order these. And this one's I'm going to stack. I'm going to call it page 02. This one, page 03. And I'm going to put in my page numbers for these two, and then we'll take a break. Now, I'm going to do something important here is I'm going to lock page 1 and 3. So when I enter things on page 2. Now, here in my number, I go to page 2. Page 2 is on the left, page 3 is on the right. Select here, hit Command D, brings up the place tool, pick page 2, open. And this one, I'm going to start in the top left and go down to 4 inches. And if I get close, it snaps. And there, page 2. And hit the escape key. I'm going to lock that, go to page 3, and make sure I can see the right. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Scroll up. Command D, page 3. Go up to the top left, scroll down. Looking on the left column, I want to be at 4 inches, which is there, and everything lines up. I let go. Now there's something happened here is that if we look carefully, I put things in page 3, I put things in page 2, and I put things in page 1, but page 1 is empty. But if I go over here and I go to page 1 has something in it, but page 2 and 3 are empty. So this has something to do with organization in InDesign. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And why organization is important, why creating layers is important, and why locking off things so you make sure you don't put things in the wrong layer is important. And we'll learn that more as we go on. But for right now, we have page 1, page 2, and page 3 have our page numbers in them.